Scott Gooding, welcome to Business Not As Usual. It is great to have you here with me today in my living room.
Yeah, beautiful place, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure. Now, for those who don't know about you, can you give me a little bit of who is Scott and what do you stand for?
I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. So I work within the health and fitness industry. Within that space, I write books. I've been a published author 9 times. I've got a restaurant group. I've got some ready meals going, and I do coaching. So I do nutrition coaching. So there's a few sort of things going on, and I've been in this space probably about 20 years or close to. So I started just down the road from you, actually, in Bondi, working as a fitness instructor down on the beach.
Amazing. Now, I love talking about a business ecosystem and future-proofing ourselves. So you're the perfect person to talk to about that today. But I really want to focus on health and all the different pillars of health. I mean, 2020 has been discombobulating for many of us at best. So can we talk a little bit about how you've personally handled your health in 2020?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Lisa. I mean, health, my version of health, my understanding of health is that it's made up of many different facets or aspects or factors of your life, and each silo or factor of your life can kind of contribute to stress and inflammation. So it's about managing those factors as best you can, mitigating the amount of stress and inflammation that they can subsequently cause. So in a time like COVID, the landscape that we're in now, there's a heightened amount of stress and pressure from work, from, the confines of being at home, from financial woes. So even if you're doing all those other things right, nutrition, exercise, sleep, we're in this heightened state of stress and consequently inflammation at the moment. So it's fair to assume that a lot of our immunity is threatened at the moment, and our well-being and our mental health well-being. So I guess for me personally, I fell victim of having a bit of a bump in the road sort of earlier on this year, probably around late Feb. I got pretty sick as a consequence of, I've now got 20/20 vision, and I can look back with hindsight and say, okay, well, I can pinpoint what that was. And it wasn't my nutrition, it wasn't my lack of exercise, it wasn't my poor sleep, but there was something that was causing significant amount of stress that I wasn't dealing with. I was sort of like pushing down and not sharing as much as I probably should have with my partner. And so over weeks and months, that starts to erode your well-being, your mental health well-being. And I actually ended up in hospital. Wow. For about 5 or 6 days with shingles, which is as horrible as it sounds. It's such a, anyway, what that has given me is this sort of sense of clarity, and it's forced me almost to, it got me to a ground zero, and it got me to reassess what that stress is, what that looks like, and how to manage it, and what's important in life, which is the unforeseen sort of thing that was born out of that. What is important in life? Was that stress that important that it got me to hospital? No. And I've since sort of repositioned what is success, because the stress that got me to hospital was actually, I guess, worrying too much about money and constantly on this drive for success. And if there's a drive for success, that'll equate to I'm not necessarily driven by money, but I got to the point where I need to support my family more than I am. And now I've sort of repositioned all that, and I'm like, as long as you've got your health, as long as you've got connection and your family, that is success. That is the definition of success in my mind.
So that's interesting. They say we teach what we need to learn. So it's probably really good. And thank you for sharing that. I think that'll be really important for so many people watching this, because I feel like so many people feel like they're alone or they don't have it all together. So hearing the master actually saying that you let yourself burn out and get to that point is really interesting. And I think you've probably got a lot of lessons that you can share from that. So can we break it down a little bit? I want to give people some really specific, actionable takeaways. Can we talk a little bit about maybe movement and nutrition, meditation and sleep, and some really actionable things that people can put into place right away?
Yeah, for sure. Sort of one step back about, when we were talking about those different facets or aspects of your life and how they can all, ramp up or down-regulate your stress. Some of those, particularly the ones that you've talked about or touched on, are ones that we have utter control over. So your nutrition, your sleep and your exercise and meditation, you control, unless you're in prison, you can control when you eat, what you eat, when you go to sleep, how much sleep you get. All those other things, such as the stress, the work, the family relationships, that's less easy to control. So let's, work with what we're working with and let's control the controllable. So when it comes to nutrition, sort of the lowest hanging fruit in terms of moving you forward for health and longevity is eat as much natural produce as you can. Have a carb sort of appropriate diet. Carbohydrates are a fuel. They're a non-essential macronutrient. So use them to support your movement goals, if you like. So all natural, carb appropriate, low processed foods, low processed industrialized oils. But I think, and obviously ethical meat. But I think if you're going predominantly all natural nutrition, you're way ahead in terms of your health and vitality and immunity and longevity.
So just talk to me a little bit about that, because a lot of people will be like, well, that's all very well and good, but where do I actually get it? And is it affordable? Because I know a lot of times we just grab something because it's cheap, or it's easy, or it's accessible. So for people who are thinking, well, I don't know where to get that produce, or I don't have access to it, or it's really expensive, what would you say around that?
Well, that's a valid point. And I guess it's always a little bit of resistance to, someone promoting that all natural nutrition message. But it's about choices. It's about shopping in the right places. We all have access, or most of us have access to an IGA or a Coles or a Woolies, a grocer of that nature. Even if, let's not even talk about farmers markets or supplement shops or health food shops. Let's just talk about those big sort of staple grocers. There's plenty of fresh produce there. It might not come from a regen farmer or sustainable farmer, but there's plenty of fresh produce there. There's plenty of, obviously depending where you are, your locale, there's a good chance there's some ethical meat in there, some free-range eggs, some organic eggs, some free-range organic chicken, all that sort of stuff. So it comes down to choices. Yes, there are lots of processed, convenience, refined foods within that supermarket. But if you keep to the outside, that first bit that you walk into with all the greenery and the fresh produce, if that makes up most of your basket, most of your trolley, you'll be home and hosed.
It's kind of frightening though, isn't it? I feel like that green bit is shrinking, so it doesn't take so long to get around it, which I guess is a good thing, a lucky thing. Can you talk to me a little bit about movement? Because obviously we're talking about a holistic approach to health. So talk to me about movement. What are some simple things that people can do?
Well, I'm probably going to be a bit controversial here in the sense that I don't think it's that important if, and here's the big caveat, if you've put all your time, your energy, your focus on your nutrition, and your nutrition is that model of predominantly all natural, because that is going to move your health greater and faster than focusing on movement. And I say that because we do have this kind of perception that fitness is the solution to health. Fitness is the solution to weight management. And it leaves people probably frustrated because they're running their 2Ks a day or they're going to the gym and they're not seeing the results. But because perhaps it's backed up by a poor diet or the macronutrients are in the wrong ratios. So I'm not discounting it. I'm not saying that it doesn't have value. It surely does, but it's where it ranks, I guess, is the really important part. If you've got good nutrition, you've got good sleep, then exercise and movement is the cherry on top. And because we've done that, we've dropped the ranking of it, the importance of it, if we're doing the other things right. It can now be something that we enjoy. It can be something pleasurable. It can be something social. It doesn't have to be flogging yourself in a gym. It doesn't have to be in a gym. So many people, me included, actually find the gym quite intimidating. And I'm used to the gym. But, you walk in, there's a few big guys over there and couple of big girls over there and they've all got tattoos. Like it's can be an intimidating environment. So if the gym's not your thing, don't chase that. It might be throwing, a frisbee for your dog. It might be snorkeling. It might be... So to answer your question in a succinct way, what can we do? Sure, move every day. Do something that you enjoy and mix it up. So I sort of split it between three different sort of genres, if you like. A sweat, something that gets you moving, something that gets you sort of a bit rosy, a bit flushed, gets a bit sweaty. So that can be, anything that's reasonably high intensity. And then a blue workout, so anything in water. So it can be swimming, stand-up paddleboarding, surfing, surf kiting, whatever. And then something green. So a green workout, anything in nature, a walk, a hike, fill in the blank. So something, let's encompass. So movement needs to be something that we can do today, tomorrow, next week. So it needs to be something that's sustainable. And for it to be sustainable, it needs to be enjoyable.
I think they're really, really good tips. I'm laughing because as I'm sitting here, my legs are shaking because I did the hardest workout today in nature and I can feel my muscles like boom, 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 boom. So, yeah, I think it's really important. I think it's about breaking it down into achievable bite-sized goals. And as you say so eloquently, doing something that you enjoy, be it in nature or throwing a frisbee or playing with your dog or just going for a walk and doing those incremental things. So that's great. Thank you. Let's move on to sleep. Now, I sleep 8 to 10 hours every single night. And people say to me often, but you're an entrepreneur, surely you must just sleep 4 hours. So can you talk to me about the importance of sleep?
Yeah, sleep's a funny one. It's like, it's something that's often neglected and it's often something that's compromised because we've got other stuff going on. But it's actually probably the biggest lever that we have, the biggest driver to health. Depending where your nutrition is at currently, sleep and nutrition can kind of oscillate, between rank priority number 1 or number 2. So if you've got, poor sleep but your nutrition's okay, then obviously sleep is paramount. Sleep gets ranked number 1 conversely. So sleep is where we, our cells rest and restore. So we have 2 distinct operating systems, like a parasympathetic or a sympathetic. So the sympathetic is what we're operating now. It induces alertness, cognitive function, our muscles are primed, ready to rock and roll. The flip to that is your parasympathetic, and we all need it. It's all normal, and it's where we kind of rest and restore. When there becomes an imbalance of those operating systems, i.e. the sympathetic nervous system is operating more, the ratio shifts in favor of sympathetic, then inflammation can occur. Circling back to what I was saying right at the start, it's all about mitigating, managing inflammation. So studies have shown that we need 7 to 8 hours. So 7 to 8 hours are optimal. Having more than that or less than that can be problematic. So the thing with sleep is like cherish that like you do, or put as much energy into it or discipline into it as you would going to the gym or having a workout or, shopping for your all natural nutrition. Like, put the same diligence to that as you would everything else in your life, because that'll probably have the biggest impact in the short, medium and long term. But the thing is, again, it's often overlooked, and that's a consequence of, the world that we live in.
So do you have some tips? Because obviously 2020, there's a lot of people who are lying awake at night, worrying because there's so much to worry about, and it becomes so much more prevalent for some reason when we're in bed alone or whatever it is. Are there things that you would suggest, like, turn your phone off an hour before you go to bed? Like, what would you say to people about actually winding down so that they get optimum sleep?
I think that's the perfect answer, really, because that blue light is affecting the release of melatonin. The best thing we can do is to shut down the TV or the laptop or the iPhone, whatever it is, at least 2 hours before bed. So it's not like entertainment ends when the laptop closes. So a good strategy, and one that I try and do most nights, is, if you need to work or you're engaged in that Netflix doco, rather than going, okay, I'm going to watch one more episode, but it's getting, within that 2 hour time frame, put it down and pick up a bloody great book, and then spend the next 45 hour reading that. And that will sort of segue you nicely into a more sleep inducing state. Another tip is hot and cold showers. So oscillate between a hot and a cold, finish on a cold. You want a fairly cool room, so research suggests that between 17 and 19 degrees is optimal for sleep. Dark as you can get it. Earplugs if they're comfortable. No alcohol. So alcohol, contrary to what you think alcohol would benefit sleep, it actually sedates us, which is a different sort of state to sleep. So you might have had... we've all had a few drinks from time to time, and you might have noticed that night that you didn't sleep that well. And in the morning, the grogginess that you feel is partly to do with the alcohol, partly to do with the interrupted sleep. And then food. So don't have food too close to sleep. Again, there's a couple of reasons, but one is probably the thermodynamic reaction that food has. And so we want to have a cool internal and external environment for sleep. So if you've just eaten, you're going to sort of spike your body temperature. So you want to bring that down. So food's sort of an hour and a half, 2 hours before hitting the sack.
Lots of amazing tips there. Thank you. And I love that you put print in there, being an advocate of print these days and reading books. Talk to me a little bit about meditation, because people are often overwhelmed by meditation. I started meditating probably 16 years ago, and I've kind of done, 5 minutes here, and then I've done literally 3 weeks of meditating in India nonstop, 17 hours a day. So I've done all extremes. For people who haven't yet meditated, can you talk about the power of meditation and where's an easy place to start so that they're not overwhelmed?
Sounds like you're probably best placed to answer this.
This is your interview, though.
A really good place to start, and it's actually where I got to, because meditation is, it's on paper very easy to do, right? You find a quiet spot, a comfortable spot, and you sit still. Which is not easy. For
so many people.
Well, no, exactly right. And I think there's a little bit of a misnomer with meditation, in the sense that people think, I failed at it because I can't clear my mind. I've got all these thoughts racing in, what to do for the day, that email I need to get back to. It's an odd one, really, because it's something that seemingly on paper looks very easy. You're sitting somewhere quiet, somewhere comfortable, and that's it. You're not expected to do lunges or squats or hideous burpees or anything. So why is it so hard? And I think primarily there's this sort of misnomer, this sort of misunderstanding of what the crux of meditation is and how to achieve it. And when people sit down there or sit for the first time, nothing, you're not going to be I don't think there's any such thing as an expert meditator, but as a beginner, it's very natural to have this bombardment of thoughts, your to-do list, getting back to that email, all that sort of stuff. That's all very normal. That hasn't meant you've failed. It just means that within that time frame that you're sitting, there should be a focus on a particular aspect, and that can be your breath, it can be the end, a point on your face, it can be the end of your nose, whatever works for you, or a mantra. So it's actually not about clearing your mind. That's virtually impossible. It's about just reminding yourself as many times as you can, this is my version anyway, within that time frame, be it 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and just coming back to that breath or that mantra or that point on your face or your body. The best place to start, and this is kind of where I got to after failing a number of times, thinking that I've got to sit for half an hour from day one and clear my mind. I realized that that's not the best approach. That's not the way, that's not your on-ramp. The best on-ramp that I had, and this was advice given to me a number of years ago, was because I said to this guy, I just can't meditate. I'm just crap at it. I can't empty my mind. I can't sit still for half an hour. He's like, have you got 1 minute? Yeah. Well, there you go. Start with 1 minute. Literally put a timer on your phone for 1 minute and just sit still. Focus on that breath, mantra, point on your body, and come back to that as often as you can. And then the next day, do 2 minutes. Next day, do 3 minutes. And I reckon, I don't care how busy you are, we've all got a minute in our day. We've probably got 2, we've probably got 3. And that's the process, that's the on-ramp that I took. And I got up to 20 minutes a day. And that was probably about right for me. And again, during that 20 minutes, you have lots of thoughts. You forget that you're supposed to be meditating at times. And then you go, oh, yeah, right. That breath, that mantra, that point on your body. So I think that is key to getting people on the treadmill, so to speak, to remove that notion that we've got to clear our mind and we've got to be zen. I don't think that that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of guided meditations as well, like on apps like Calm and Insight Timer. So if anyone's struggling, they can check those out as well. And I'm also a big advocate of movement as meditation. So I would say sometimes when I'm having a run, that's meditation. So I think whatever works for anyone. So that's great advice.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. Like, it doesn't have to be still meditation. It can be a walk in nature, or the Bondi to Bronte, or surfing is that probably for me. It used to be running years ago. You're on your own. The thing that you're doing enables or facilitates you to be present. I think that's a key factor too. Like my ability at surfing is not at a point where I cannot think about anything other than the wave, the wind, the person in front of me, the person behind me. Maybe that'll come when I become more proficient and I can it becomes second nature and I can think about the to-do list. But at the moment, nothing else exists apart from being in the water in that given moment.
Yeah, and that's actually a beautiful segue back to movement and what you were saying about just find something which keeps you present and that you love doing. I know whenever I surf or go rock climbing or a myriad of other things that I do, I have to be so focused and in the moment that it is also meditative for me. So,
and to find that pursuit might mean taking up a new craft or skill, or learning the guitar or learning the piano or learning how to rock climb. Because at some point, if we do something long enough, we become proficient and we can sort of rest on our laurels, or it becomes second nature. And then we can start to drift into, that to-do list. But when things are new, you need your cognitive powers, your dexterity, and then nothing else exists other than trying to learn that fiddly chord. You know, you can't think about anything else. You know, the moment you do, everything just unravels.
Exactly. So thank you. I think that's been great, kind of covering sleep, meditation, movement, and nutrition. For anyone who's watching who really feels, unraveled this year, mental health is obviously really, really important, and bringing those four things together will certainly help. But for anyone that is really feeling like, I've lost a sense of purpose, I don't know what's next, my business, the rug's been pulled out from under me, I feel really unsure and uncertain. Are there any things that you can bring it all together and kind of go, okay, these are some really simple things, rituals, routines, disciplines that you can do on a daily basis just to bring yourself back to the moment?
I think that's a really good starting point. Can I tweak, fine tune, improve my nutrition? Can I tweak, fine tune, improve my sleep and my movement? Let's remember that movement is a great mood enhancer. So maybe if I train at the start of the day, or train a little bit harder or a little bit longer, it's going to lift my mood more, which has a echo throughout the day. And then aside from those sort of four key movers of health, a reminder of how fortunate you are might be enough to kind of give you a sense of purpose and connection. When we're hyper stressed, as many people are at the moment, it feels like we're free falling. And when we're free falling, it's hard to kind of grab onto anything. But the reality is that, yes, it might be a little bit harder in business and commerce at the moment because of those reasons. And a little aside, it's often quite comforting to know that there's a lot of people in that world at the moment. So there's some comfort in that. You're not alone. But reminding yourself that, okay, well, I do have my health. I do have love in my life. I do have connection. These are all really important things to have. I do have purpose. If my purpose has waned or I feel like it's not there anymore, what doors can I open? What aligns to my values that I can pursue? Because that's kind of key. We're here for 80, 90 years. Like we need, there's lots of research around this, that we need a purpose. The moment that dissolves or wasn't there in the first place, it leads to a pretty unfulfilled and, on a day-to-day basis, it's going to disrupt your mood. We need something to, so that can be, if it's not your business anymore, if it's not your profession because of COVID and the impact of that, then maybe it's helping others. Maybe it's, helping out of the soup kitchen or, helping a charity in any way that, in any form that looks, helping others, giving back to others is, one of the greatest ways that we can have connection and purpose.
I love that you said that, because I think so many people just think, what's my purpose? And you just have to put the first step in front of the next, and find something. And I think that's a great piece of advice. Just start exercising or find a way to help others, and suddenly that spark will come back.
Yeah.
So thank you. I think we can wrap it there. Scott Gooding, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure. Thank you, Lisa.